Well, it's a great turnout here. It's just exciting to see this room continue to be filled. I remember last time we met here, it was full to overflowing. Who would have thought Republicans would have filled this room in McAlester? Okay? I mean, I'm from Muskogee, so I understand that. You know, Democrats don't rule anymore, do they? You know, it's been a good day for the campaign. I can't help but see the Merle Haggard shirt. You know, the Okie from Muskogee, so you know, you gotta appreciate that. I know most of you know my story. I am from Muskogee. I've got a carpet cleaning business there. I've had it for 25 years. A successful small businessman, and that's pretty much the lifeblood of the 2nd District. Small businessmen make up the majority of the jobs, the majority of the businesses, and they keep us going. And I know that we all like to deal with a guy across the counter that we know of. It's kind of interesting. Over my 25 years, I've got little old ladies who've been customers and are more than customers, are friends. I don't know how many times I've gone in and they've got a roast that they've cooked on Sunday. They've got it laid out there, and they've got the bread. They say, make you a sandwich when you're done, and just pull the door closed behind you. One of my other favorite stories that everyone has probably heard. One of my favorite customers, I go to her house, the door's unlocked, there's a note on the kitchen table saying what I'm supposed to clean, what rooms and where the spots are. There's a big glass jar. It reminded me of this. There was a jar here, a donation jar somewhere. But their jar was filled with cash too. And they said, take out what you need and pull the door closed behind you. That's what's great about the 2nd District. We are not Tulsa and Oklahoma City. And you know, as 6 years as state rep, I got tired of only hearing Tulsa and Oklahoma City. There are more cities across this district, more cities across western Oklahoma with people that matter, people of character. And that's what's important about Oklahoma. We have a different type of spirit. We have a different type of resolve that we won't be blown away, we won't be torn down, we will always rebuild, and we will always conquer, because that's the Oklahoma spirit that we have. And we're going to carry that spirit on. We're going to turn the entire state Republican this year. There will not be another vote for Nancy Pelosi out of the 2nd District this year. I heard the sheriff candidates talking about some of the things, the struggles that they've had. I fought those same things on the state level. I filed legislation that made county races nonpartisan. Couldn't get anywhere with that. I argued in caucus this year. Why is the sheriff partisan? Because they're supposed to obey the law. And it falls on deaf ears, because too often political correctness and policy and parties play too much of a thing in it. I understand you've got to have a party, you've got to lead. But sometimes you have to lay those labels aside, and what's good government, what's good policy. And that's the way I look at everything. Just some things that happened just this week. How many of you watched the debate either you were there live, or you saw it on internet, or how many saw the debate? Okay, a few of you. I know down here it's a little harder. I know that we're going to try to have that debate up on our Facebook page so you can watch it and you can see it for yourself. I know that they're going to live stream that on the internet, so go watch that, because this election is too important to not be informed about the candidates. We have got to make sure that all your questions are answered, that our candidates are fully vetted, because the last time we didn't vet a candidate, we wound up with Barack Obama.
Right.
We don't want something like that to happen again.
That's right.
On my way down, anyone listen to the radio today on the way to Sean Hannity? Did you happen to catch yours truly on Sean Hannity's radio show? That was pretty exciting. And as soon as I got off the radio, let's see, I got a call from Claremore, I got a call from Oklahoma City, I got calls from Texas, I got a call from someone in Georgia, I got a call from someone in North Carolina that said, hey, they heard you on the radio, so they were excited about what was going on. So that's pretty exciting whenever you start drawing national attention to Oklahoma, because they know something is happening here. And what we want to do is we want to advance good policy. We want to advance great individuals who will serve as a public servant You know, I've been in the state legislature for 6 years. 6 years is not a career. I was 44 years old when I first was called to be a public servant. I've already had a career. I've got a career as a carpet cleaner. I've got a career as a husband to Becky and a father to my kids. So being in the state legislature and running for Congress is not about me. It's not about my business. The issues that are in front of this country are too serious to be so focused on how it affects you. There are millions of people across this country that are hurting because of the choices of the present administration. There are millions of people across this country who can't survive because of choices of this administration. That's why it's so important that we replace the occupant of the White House. Let's have a moveout.org. I'll drive the moving truck. Who will help me move him forward? Replace the occupant of the White House. And we can do that, and we can get this country back on a straight path. You know, when you talk about what are we going to do, what are the problems, I was talking with Dwayne earlier, and he ran across someone who knew my grandfather, which brought up a story that I've told a few times. Whenever you look at this country and you look at why our business is hurting, one of the big reasons is because of the tax policies in place here. They're not meant for people to produce. They're meant to take the fruit of your labor and give it to somebody else. And Dwayne and I were talking. My grandfather was a very hard man. He had a lot of acres. He had some really great ponds that I'd go fish in. And I'd go across the pasture and I'd fish in there. I remember one time I was fishing. I could hear him up on the hill get in his truck, and he drives down through the pasture. And I was pretty excited because I caught a pretty good sized bass. He pulls down there and he gets out of the truck and he says, "Son, what'd you catch?" I said, so I naturally grabbed that bass, and it was probably like this. It was probably 3 or 4 pounds. And I held it up and he said, "Bring it over here." You can imagine I was pretty proud. I thought he was going to brag on his grandson because he didn't do that very much. He grabbed that fish, he pulled out his pocket knife, he cut that fish in half, gave me the head, and he took the tail. That's what government is doing right now. They're cutting the tail off, taking the meat, and giving you nothing but the head. I was talking to a doctor, a friend of mine who's a supporter. He said he works until September to pay his taxes and his liability insurance. He only lives on part of the rest of the year. So we've got to fix the tax system because we want people to be successful. There is nothing wrong with being successful. But I'll tell you, success is not valued by how many zeros are in your bank account. It's by the choices that you're able to make. In a free society, choices decide your freedom. And when government takes away your choices, your freedoms are shrunk even more. This government is taking away our choices. It's time that we push government back, get them out of our lives and back them off, and let's let us succeed or fail on our own merits, not by what someone else tells us we ought to do. Something else to think about. It's a big job being a congressman, and you've got to be experienced in what you're doing. You've got to know about legislation. You've got to know how to craft a bill. You've got to know how to run a bill. And even if you want to get rid of bills, it takes a bill to do that. Do you realize that? You can't go say up there, "I'm not going to run any bills." You've got to run a bill if you want to get rid of government. That's how it works. We need a congressman who is ready from day one to go to work, because our country is on a precipice. They are on the edge. They are right here. And if we don't pull back, and if we don't stop the direction we're going over the edge. You hear how serious the nature is. This is serious business. This is our country. We need people who are dedicated for we the people, not me. It's about us, not me. It's about what directions you want to take this country. This country's days the better days are ahead of us. I want my children, my son's going to get married in September. I want him to have a future that he can be proud of. I want him to be able to live and survive and strive being self-employed if he wants to be. I want him to be able to go out and create a future for his future family. And it's going to take us as patriots to stand up. You know, today we started our day off paying a visit to Jim Gailey. Some of you in this room probably know Jim Gailey. And if you've seen any of our literature, you probably have seen a little bent-over patriot. He's been a friend of ours. And he was actually, I invited him to be Veteran of the Week. Pearl Harbor survivor. Pearl Harbor survivor. He was aboard the USS Helena when the planes flew over his ship and hit the USS Oklahoma and the USS Arizona. Patriots like that today. He was in Solera, which is a hospital, fighting for his life. He's not long for this world, but he has given to this country because it matters. He hasn't given because of what he wanted. He gave because it was worth fighting for. This country's worth fighting for. I will fight for you to make this country the greatest that it can be, and the 2nd District to be the most prosperous that it can, on our own efforts, on our own merits, and not by something that government is telling me or taking away from me. So thank you very much. I'm sorry I took all my time, but